In 2022, I rode 11,000 kilometers in 5 weeks, and the videos looks amazing from all these fantastic places. But behind the scenes, I planned this completely wrong. Here's why that itinerary almost ruined the experience and the new method that I used to fix it. I'll share my step-by-step planning guide and later the 3 pitfalls that most beginners make. So as a beginner, I was fueled up with all the amazing videos and stories from other adventurers on these trips all around the world. And I wanted to do something similar. So I really wanted to maximize and cram as much as possible into one single trip. And I had 5 weeks to do it. But I hadn't learned what maximizing a trip really meant. I thought the more places that I could visit and the more miles I could cover, I'd be happy and I'd look cool and be a real adventurer. On this specific trip, we planned to ride 11,000 kilometers in 5 weeks, which we did. We followed the plan, but the plan meant covering too much distance in too little time. So the goal each day was trying to experience things, but the main goal is to cover enough distance to even make it around. And we got to see some fantastic places, but the experience is, wow, this is amazing. But we really have to push on now to make it to the next stop. But I've learned a lot since then. The last 8 years, I've been to 24 countries on 4 continents, 10 states in the US, and I've learned that a good planning starts with the right mindset. From all my trips, I have fantastic lifetime memories, and it's really the reason why I do this. But I come to realize that of all the memories that I have, none of them are from things that I actually planned to do. Everything comes from moments and situations that just happened, and many of them actually started as a negative thing that turned out to be a fantastic experience, new friends and stories to tell. So the best memories comes from meeting people, experiencing nature, new culture, being on your bike, feeling just calm and free, to let the adventure play out like reading a book that you did not completely write yourself. And with this in mind, here's how I plan my trip. So I have an area of interest, let's say Romania this time, where I want to ride, and I have a time frame. But I don't care about the time frame I have already, but I start acquiring knowledge about the region. And I usually start by opening a blank Google My Maps. And I use that map to just fill in the points of interest and the available tracks that I can find online. So this way I don't arrive in an area just clueless about everything, but I do some research. It's great fun to do that in the off season before the season starts and you're going on your trip. Just fill it with interesting places to visit, viewpoints, campsites, and the available tracks could be from the Trans-Euro Trail, Adventure Country tracks, or whatever sort of official tracks there is. You can also just Google for adventure riding in that area. You can visit Facebook groups. Another site that I usually look at is a fun place called Atlas Obscura, and it's in the name. It's an atlas full of obscure points of interest, not the regular here's a church or a museum, but the odd stuff, and it can be quite interesting to find places like this. So when we have the map filled with stuff, I read up on the laws and the details about the country that affects me. So, for instance, am I allowed to wild camp? What's the off-roading laws in the country? Currencies? When is the best time to ride in the country? And so on. And in Europe, I usually just go to the Trans-Euro Trail website because they have all of that information there. It's a great resource. And also, if you're not going to ride Trans-Euro Trail or adventure country tracks, look at where they are on the map, because they usually go through the best regions and places to ride in that country. And you'll also find the suggested hotels and viewing spots and everything. So I still use Trans-Euro Trail and adventure country tracks, even if I don't ride them. So now we have the map, points of interest, tracks, general knowledge about the country. Now we make just a sketch of a plan. I usually know where I'm going to start in the country. So I mark the starting point, and then we make a really rough sketch of a plan. I usually know my first day or two where, oh, let's head for that mountain with those tracks. That's what we're gonna do. So first day I know pretty much what I'm going to do, but the rest is just clockwise, anti-clockwise, or whatever the figure of your general plan is. But we don't make an itinerary, we don't book any accommodations or anything. So day one, the rest will happen. So a day on my trip will look something like this. We start the day with a full tank of fuel, we have some breakfast in the stomach, water bladder full, and some energy packed in the backpack, some nuts and berries and stuff like that. Then we ride the awesome trails that I've planned for the day, going in the direction that I decided, and I do that until early afternoon. And that's where we start thinking about, where do we want to end up today? How much more riding do I want today? It could be a fantastic day and I want to ride longer. It could be rainy and cold and I want to cut it short. So I find an accommodation early afternoon. It's now 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Go out on booking.com and find somewhere to stay for the night. And I just find a place in the direction I want to go. I decide on a region, I find a good place for a good price with a restaurant, and I book it. It never failed, not even in high season, because you're adapting where you want to go depending on price and location and everything like that. So there's always something. And if I've got camping gear, I may have seen this fantastic place. It's a warm, nice evening and camping would be amazing. Then we'll do that at the place that we just found out. And in the evening at the accommodation, I get some food and beer and I meet locals and other riders perhaps. And I look at my research map and I can see all the points of interest, where I am and where I want to go, in which direction. And I can stick to what I have available there, or I can just explore my way in that direction, or I got some great recommendations from other riders. Maybe they came from the other direction and tell me about something amazing. And so every night I make the plan for the next day. And also, there might be a big rain cloud over the area you've thought about doing. So, rain in the north, let's head a bit south to avoid that. We're not locked into any itinerary here. And this is what I repeat each day. Decide in the evening what you're gonna do. The uncertainty of your trip is the best part. And that's what feels adventurous. And you may make the whole lap that you sort of sketched that you wanted to do, but if you don't make everything on your map, that's not the intention. When you feel the time is running out, you start heading back to the exit, so to speak, and start your way home. So the pitfalls that you want to avoid, and one of them is the Nordkapp pitfall, as I call it, or the Mount Everest pitfall. But number one for me is to not make a fixed itinerary. It will make you a slave. I actually got one time from some guy who wanted to travel Sweden, and he wanted me to look at his itinerary for his trip, if it looked okay. It was 19 days, and it was planned morning, lunch, and evening with accommodation for every of the 19 days with kilometers and everything. I mean, no spontaneousness. And what if you have flat on your bike? That it falls like domino bricks. So be easy on the itinerary stuff and feel free and adventurous and uncertain. And then we have the time frame pitfall, trying to cram in too much things in too little time. I try to make a rough time estimate of what it takes for me to do the things that I have the ambition of doing at least. And I try to fit that within 75% of my vacation time or the time available, because you have room to be spontaneous. Yeah, you have time for mishaps and things like that. So as an adventurer, you want to explore. You don't want to be on a time schedule, right? And then we have my nemesis, the North Cape pitfall, or actually the Mount Everest is also a good analogy. So let's take that one to start with. Let's say you're doing this big adventure and you have one big goal with your trip, and that is to reach the top of Mount Everest. You do all of this, the struggles, fighting your way up the mountain, but you don't make it the last meters. So you have to go back down, and what you come home with is a big failure. You did not complete your goal. And it's a little bit like that with North Cape. I know a lot of people want to do that. But what I'm telling you is, don't hinge your whole adventure on this one goal, a place you want to reach or thing that you want to do, because you get to North Cape, you take the standard picture by the globe and you post it on Instagram, and achievement feeling, that's good. But I bet you that when you get back home and you think back of your journey up to North Cape and back, actually being on the North Cape will not be even among your top 5 memories from that trip. It's more about all the things that you experience on your travels, and the stories you will tell is, I got to the big monument and blah, blah, blah. You'll say, yeah, I've been there, it was okay, but this happened there and this place was amazing and so on. Yeah, so you get what I mean. Just don't make too big goals that make or break your whole trip. That's what I'm saying. Another important part is, of course, to make sure that your bike is prepared for your trip before you go. You don't want to worry about tires or brake pads and oil changes. So this is what I do before I leave on any trip. And yeah, so check that video out and I'll see you over there. Mic drop.